Buju Ani, Jameline Indishnakas, Flying Post First Nations, Nin and Dunjaba. Welcome to the updates from the ISO conversation. My name is Jamie Lee Reardon. I am the lead institute coordinator at imagineNATIVE. I am from Flying Post First Nations in Treaty 9 territory. I have long brown braids. I'm wearing Indigenous made earrings and a mobilized crew neck shirt. I'm sitting on a computer chair and behind me is a white wall. The imagineNATIVE Institute would like to say miigwech thank you to our speakers for sharing their time today. And thank you to our lead institute partner, Netflix, institute partner Crave, as well as Ontario Creates and industry day 4 partner, APTN. Today, we are pleased to welcome Tash Navo, Program Manager of the Story Fund, Kaya Wheeler, Outreach and Program Coordinator, and Isabel Ruiz, Program Manager of Sector Development from the ISO, for an update on current opportunities and support from the Indigenous Screen Office. I will now pass it over to imagineNATIVE's Associate Director, Jessica Fleming, to say a few words before we start the panel. Over to you, Jess.
Hi, bonjour everyone. Thank you so much for letting me jump into your beautiful discussion today. I just wanted to say a quick thank you, merci, miigwech, to all of the Industry Days participants, you folks from ISO for joining us today for this fabulous conversation, and just to pass along our gratitude for your participation, our industry panelists, participants, leaders, and folks contributing to a growing, flourishing, beautiful, representative sector. So from Naomi, Nikki, and myself, a big, big thank you, merci. And I'll pass back to Jamie Lee.
Thanks so much, Jess. And now we could hop into the panel. So I will pass it over to Isabel to introduce herself.
There you go. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, imagineNATIVE, for having us. My name is Isabel Ruiz. I am coming to you from Montreal, Quebec, or Tiohtià:ke. I have long, dark brown hair, dark brown eyes. I'm wearing a white button-up shirt and beaded earrings. Behind me is a white wall and a brown wooden door. I am a Mohawk and European settler. I'm a member of Six Nations of the Grand River, but like I said, I am from Montreal, Quebec. I am the program manager for sector development, and I also look after the Netflix Apprenticeship and Cultural Mentorship Grant. And I'm really happy to be speaking with you all today and give you some more information about our programs. Maybe I'll let Tash go next, introduce herself.
Hi, Anin, everyone. My name is Tash Navo. I am from Matagami First Nation. I'm adopted Anishinaabe, but by birth, I'm Dene and Eastern European. I'm of the Deer Clan, and I'm here in Toronto, Ontario, where I live and work. Visual description, I have sort of medium length, long brown hair, brown eyes. I'm wearing a green floral shirt with a black sweater. And behind me is my beautiful blue wall, a wall hanging by Nalik Ledru, amazing Inuit artist, and a print by Christy Belcourt that says "Water is life," and a brown like leather bag that says Cuba on it. So yeah, that's me, and thank you for having me here. I'll pass it over to Kaya.
Thanks, Tash. Hi, everybody. My name is Kaya Wheeler. I'm coming to you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, where I live and work. My family comes from Saugeen First Nations on my mother's side, which is about an hour and a half north in Treaty 1 here. And that is where I'm a member. And then my dad's side of the family comes from George Gordon's in Saskatchewan. I am the outreach and program coordinator with the ISO. Bit of description. So I'm sitting in a white room. So there's a white wall behind me, but there are some plants to the right and behind me, and an open window to the left of me. I have dark hair and it's pulled back into a bun. I have on long beaded earrings that are turquoisey color, and I'm wearing kind of a V-neck long sleeve shirt.
Thank you all so much. It's a pleasure to have you all here for this conversation today. So can we talk about each of your positions at the ISO and what you're doing over there currently? And I'll pass it back over to you, Isabel.
Yeah, of course. So like I said, I'm the program manager for sector development. So I have two grants that I look after, one being the Sector Development Partnerships Grant, which I'll give you a little bit more information about as we go through our slides that we've prepared. And then I also look after the Netflix Apprenticeship and Cultural Mentorship Grant, which is in its third cycle with the ISO. And this is a really great partnership between the ISO and Netflix. We're really grateful for the support that they've given us to keep this program going. We've been able to support a lot of Indigenous storytellers to get hands-on training and to get really meaningful and impactful cultural mentorship as well. So those are my two areas of purview. And then I collaborate, of course, with Kaya and Tash, and I'll let Tash maybe say some stuff about the Story Fund.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell folks what I do at the ISO. I am an employee. I manage the Story Fund program, which has sort of like three streams, so development, production, and enhancements. And so we'll get into that in a bit. And yeah, so I just manage that program and make sure that folks know about it and how to apply and what they can apply with and all of that. Yeah, thank you.
In my role, so as program coordinator, I work with Tash and Isabel, helping, wherever I need extra pair of hands. We all kind of work pretty collaboratively together. So it's really great. And then on the outreach side, it's like working with different organizations, people that, may want some presentations or some more info. Yeah, and all that good stuff.
That's amazing. All right, so let's just dive right into the funding opportunities, and I'll let Kaya share your screen so we can see your slides that you have prepared for today.
Sure. Okay. So, yeah, I will start us off. So again, we're from the Indigenous Screen Office. Oh, let's see if this will let me. Oh, there we go. This is a little bit about us. So we're a national Indigenous funding and advocacy organization committed to ensuring Indigenous stories on screens are in the control of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis storytellers who have been historically excluded from the sector for more than a century. Our priority is to support First Nations, Inuit, and Métis storytellers from across Canada, including representation from diverse regions, women, 2S, LGBTQ, TIA+, emerging creators, and Indigenous language groups. Our approach is relational, so we want to hear from applicants about who they are, where they come from, and where they are going so that we can enter a relationship with them built on honesty and trust. Our team has grown a little bit in the last little while. So these are who are currently in the office. Christy Sue will be starting in November, but this is what the ISO is looking like these days. So these are the different funding programs. So the Story Fund grants, which Tash is the program manager of. Under those, we have the development program, production program, enhancements program. And then the sector development, again, that's Isabel. And under there is the sector development partnership program and the Netflix apprenticeship and cultural mentorship grants. Oh, sorry. And I will let Tash take it from here. Just a quick asterisk, all this information is on the website. So we are going to do more of an overview. We won't read everything word for word, but you can find everything on the website.
Thank you. Yeah, so the Story Fund, as it says there, is a core funding program. It is designed to support a full cycle of creation from pre-development, development, production, all the way through to dissemination of a project across all screen-based platforms. Obviously with focus on Indigenous storytelling and narrative sovereignty. Super proud about that. So these are the three streams, as I've said before, with the granting deadline. So the first deadline to pay attention to is for the development grant. So that's coming up really soon, November 8th. So this is like the grant that you would apply to at the beginning stage of your project, obviously. Different activities that folks would apply to would be like story editing, screenplay development. You know, if you're looking to option a project, creating pitch decks, paying for schematics, paying consultants or professional development workshop fees. Yeah, just to kind of get your project ready, obviously, to move on to the next stage of finding those production funds. And then the production grant, of course, that's open now until November 15th. All these deadlines, by the way, if you're like wondering what time to get that application in, if you're like me, you might be doing things a little bit late. It's 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is when they're due in the portal. So production is obviously, you're at that stage where you are ready to make the thing. And so a reminder that this program is actually open to not just film-based projects, but also digital, interactive, and emerging technology projects as well. And also podcasts, I might add, which might not be seen as screen-based. And so there's a few details that go along with that we can get into. And then, of course, enhancements. This grant is open year-round, so it's a rolling deadline. And it offers support for top-up funding. So you can be at various stages in a project, and perhaps you didn't get the funding for certain areas of your project. And so this grant would help you to sort of enhance your project in whatever those ways are and to top up your budget for those activities. And there are some criteria for applying to this grant. So projects do have to be either feature-length films or television series. And you do have to have already gone through an Indigenous peer review through another grantor. And those are some of the grantors that are listed there. So yeah. So a little bit more detail on the development grant. So obviously it's open to individuals who can also be sole proprietors, collectives, those so like ad hoc collectives, and Indigenous communities or settlements can apply to this program. And you can apply for one grant, one project, or if you're a company, you can apply for a slate of projects, so meaning 2 or more. And you'll see how that's sort of broken down in the application for the budget. So obviously, different activities can include researching, writing of the script, meeting with, story editors. Translating is a big one for folks if you're looking to produce a project in another language or an Indigenous language. So finding those translators or language consultants, developing your IP, of course, and also professional development in relation to the project. So if you're an emerging creator, if you want to build up some skills in a certain area, you can also ask for funds for those activities as well. So, and then the grant amounts, of course, are broken out by if you're applying for the one project versus the 2, and companies are allowed to ask for up to $40,000 for that slate of projects. And for the one project, it's a maximum of $20,000. So the granting deadline, as I said, is November 8th, and you can anticipate 3 to 4 months following that deadline to receive a result. And so these are some of the eligible expenses. I'm not going to read through all of them. Again, as Isabel said, they're on our website as well and the guidelines. And we've already touched on some of them, but you can obviously ask for living expenses, some honorariums and fees, obviously, for community engagement, travel costs. And please make note of the required documentation or materials that we ask to be submitted. That's kind of like a first go-to place, I think, if you go to the portal, and just make a list of what it is that you need and then go from there. So these are some of the required documents. So the production grant. So you are now at that phase where you're going to produce the thing, you're going to make the project. These are the guidelines for the kinds of projects that this grant supports. Mind you, the note about the productions intended for theatrical release obviously apply to film related projects. They do have to be intended for that, or TV broadcast or VOD streaming. They should have that sort of CanCon 6 out of 10 certification upon completion. And if you have any questions around that, you can reach out to me and we can talk about what that means. And obviously be at the stage that it's ideally before principal photography has started on a film, but definitely before it's completed, you can apply to this program. And it's open to individuals, again, who can be sole proprietors, for collectives and other groups or settlements. Those folks can apply for a maximum of $75,000 for this granting program. And then companies that have a budget of under 2.5 million can apply for up to 250,000. And if you have a budget without ISO contribution, you can apply for up to 500,000. And the same notification period, so about 3 to 4 months. And that deadline again is November 15th. So these are some of the eligible expenses. A lot of things that you might anticipate with production grant. So obviously you might be looking to pay your key creatives, obviously, we would hope. What else would you do? You would, any technical expertise, obviously, cultural advisors and knowledge carriers, you know, if you have those folks during production, hopefully you do. You can ask for legal advice, all of those different costs, obviously travel and licensing can also be included in that too. Yeah. And then the Enhancements Grant. So the Enhancement Grant program, like I said before, is a top-up funding stream. It is geared towards feature film and TV series. And these are the 4 categories for which you'll find in our portal that you can apply to. So you do kind of have to check a box. Mind you, we have some fluidity if you happen to have, you're in some in-between stages within your activities. So say your main areas that you are looking for that top-up funding for are within to finish a production. So you would likely focus on the production to post-production in terms of filling out that application. But if post-production happens to be like you have some activities in post, you can definitely still mention that in your application too, and just spell it out for us, like what it is you're looking to support. And then the maximum recommended grant amount for this is 100,000. Projects are assessed internally. And grant notifications are obviously a little bit quicker, so 2 to 3 months following the submission of the application. Yeah. So, and then these are some of the activities supported within each. You can probably imagine you know, what that would look like. Obviously, production to post, you might be continuing with engagement of experts and consultants or cultural workers. You can do retakes or pickups, but not principal photography. And post-production costs obviously can include special effects, subtitling, language translation, all the technical expertise that you might need in that phase. And then digital content enhancements. So this can be like interactive works, online or digital content that complements the project that you already have going on, or somehow expands on and enhances the film or the TV series. And then, of course, marketing, promotion, and distribution. So, you know, shopping it around, you know, if you need extra help with applying to film festivals or costs in screening with them at all, or attending perhaps now in the future. Hopefully that will happen a little bit more. And then, of course, like if you have to do a trailer or marketing promotional materials in that way to help boost the exposure of your film. And then, so these are some of the expenses. I won't go through all of them again, but these are just a guideline to kind of let you know what it is you can apply for. Yeah, and then I'll pass it over to Isabel finally.
Thank you, Tash. Okay, great. So as Tash said, the Story Fund is sort of our core programs at the ISO. And then we have these two lovely grants as well that, like I've said a couple of times now, I'm looking after. So these two grants sort of speak to the part of our mandate that is about continuing the momentum in the industry and focusing on getting people training and supporting some of the opportunities that might not have been caught in other more traditional funding grants. And so we have the Sector Development Partnerships Grant, and this is a grant that focuses on entering into a partnership with the applicant. So the ISO and the applicant are embarking on this together and looking at these sort of large scale undertakings that organizations can provide. So that can be sectoral capacity building, such as workshops, training, labs, and I'll get into a little bit more of the specifics after, but first I will talk about the Netflix Apprenticeship and Cultural Mentorship Grant. So right off the top, the deadline is November 29th, 2021 at 5 p.m. PST, just like the other ones, same time, not day. And this is the third time that we've partnered with Netflix to provide this funding. And like I said, we're really grateful that they've decided to come on board with us and continue to support this program. We've been able to give a lot of opportunities to filmmakers and creators sort of in many, many positions. And it recognizes that there are specific undertakings that Indigenous content creators have to consider, such as cultural guidance, engaging elders, that are really specific to the kinds of projects that they're making. And so we're hoping to speak with that with the cultural mentorship piece, and the apprenticeship is to get that professional development and that career advancement. So the Netflix Apprenticeship and Cultural Mentorship Grant. These are open to Indigenous individuals, sole proprietors, and Indigenous companies. So the two streams are the apprenticeships and the mentorships. The apprenticeships are to support opportunities for hands-on training and career progression for Indigenous creatives who want to take their careers to the next level. We do require a certain level of production experience coming in so that you can sort of get from point A to point B with a mentor who's going to be able to provide that really meaningful training for you. The other piece is going to be the cultural mentorship. And this was for Indigenous producers, directors, and writers to engage in cultural mentorship, community engagement, cultural learning, and protocols work during pre-development and development of their projects. And so this can include a whole suite of things such as talking to elders, speaking with community members, knowledge keepers, and developing the project and their personal growth in this really important phase of their projects. So Indigenous productions can apply and hire up to 3 apprentices on their project or to participate in a cultural mentorship. For our purposes, the production company has to be 51% Indigenous owned, with 2 of the key creative roles, producer, director, writer, showrunner, being held by an Indigenous person. So 2 of those 4 that are listed there. And the company must be registered in Canada. Indigenous individuals can also apply to be apprentices. They can apply to serve on a production or to participate in a cultural mentorship. Apprentices don't need to work on an Indigenous production, and their mentor can be non-Indigenous. If you're doing the cultural mentorship as an individual, you do need to engage an Indigenous mentor to get that really sort of specific engagement in your community or to go see them. The applicant has to be a resident of Canada. And like I said, Indigenous individuals can apply to be apprentices on any type of production, but there must be a confirmation letter, and I'll get into what you'll need to provide in order to apply. So some of the expenses that you can use your grant for, if you are an apprentice and you're applying to go work on a production, you can use that for travel. You can use that to pay yourself and your mentor. If you're engaging in a cultural mentorship, you can use your grant for gifting, food expenses, hospitality, hosting, having your mentor travel to you. And then we've also included project-specific expenses in this list because our applications can vary widely. And so we want to try to capture some of the things that are unique to your application. So for the grant amounts here, for apprentices, it's a $30,000 maximum. And if you're applying as an Indigenous production company to engage apprentices on your project, it's still a maximum of $30,000 if you hire 3. And if you're an individual applying, it'll be $30,000 to support you on that project. Cultural mentorships is a $15,000 maximum for those. So these are some of the required application requirements that you'll need when you're going through the process of applying for these grants. And I won't list everything here. These are, as we've said, sort of available on the website, available on the portal when you apply. But what's really important here for the apprentices specifically is to highlight how the mentor is going to be able to provide you that meaningful training of getting you from point A to point B and moving your career forward and providing you with really meaningful, really impactful training. We want these apprentices to be able to learn their craft and hone their skills. And so demonstrating how that's going to happen is going to be super important in your application, just to keep in mind. The same for, having a comprehensive budget of how that money is going to be spent. And we do require cultural mentors to be approved for the application to go through. So you have to have somebody in place who has agreed to provide that mentorship to you. So a couple important points on the apprentices. They can be at any stage in their career, but this opportunity has to provide enhanced experience, training, and professional development that will support their career progression. I've highlighted this a couple of times because for us, it's really important, and we want these apprentices and apprenticeships to be really meaningful. They must have some measure of production experience. They can be emerging, they can have limited experience, but there needs to be some base on which they can progress. And they must find an apprentice, a mentor, who's going to provide them with great training and who has a demonstrated track record in their area of practice, whether that's a producer or editor. They have to be compensated at an industry standard. There are many resources available to sort of give you that base, which we have access to if you need help with that. Apprentices must be residents of Canada. And as I've mentioned, apprentices can be must be Indigenous, but who they train under does not have to be Indigenous. So we support a wide range, scripted and unscripted, screen-based projects in all genres. The following types of productions are eligible: feature-length, television, web series, more digital works, and ongoing studio work. We've included for positions like VFX, animation, editing, which take place largely in a studio. And here are the professional roles that we've included in sort of these key creative positions that you can apply to as an apprentice. So we've kind of expanded the list here, as you can see, to include things like costume designer, sound designer, lighting. We're looking to specifically at positions, to support positions at heads of department and try to get people trained up so that they can step into those roles as well. So yeah, a couple other key pieces to keep in mind for apprenticeships. The productions that you either apply to or wish to bring on apprentices have to have confirmed public or broadcast funding. So the big ones, Telefilm, CMF, Canada Council. You can also have provincial territorial funding or a Canadian broadcaster on board in order to make your production eligible. This piece of having your mentor or your the apprentice confirmed is really key to the jury process, because the jury will be looking at how these matchups make sense and how they're going to be beneficial for the person receiving the training. Cultural mentors must be compensated at a minimum of $500 per single engagement. So if you're going into your community and you're engaging a language speaker to work on your script, you have to give them a minimum of $500 for every single engagement that you have with them. And of course, you must be in good standing with the ISO. These other sort of specific guidelines are definitely on our website and will come up when you are going through the application as well. They will they'll pop up several times. And so the other part of the sector development program is this grant. So we've designed the sector development partnerships grant to be a partnership that applicants are entering into with the ISO. This grant is open to Indigenous owned companies, organizations, nonprofits, charities, band councils, registered communities, and settlements. And we're looking to support robust initiatives in many iterations, many forms. And so we're looking at production training programs that are larger than the Netflix. So currently we're looking at 10 people more that are looking to get trained on a production. We're looking at youth programs, labs, workshops, big training initiatives, conferences, film festivals, events, and innovative strategies that are going to support the Indigenous screen creators and industry professionals. So we're open to a large gamut of things that are all focused on keeping the momentum going in our industry for Indigenous creators. For this grant, we are not requesting an amount, and we will be assessing the budgets based on how in line we feel the budget is with the project scope and the expected impact. So for this program as well, all applicants have to meet with me, the program manager, in order to discuss the program. This is going to be a really key part of entering into that partnership and that relationality so that we can sort of hear about your project, give feedback, move forward together so that your project is optimal for impact. So as is detailed in our funding guidelines and on our website, the spirit and intent of our funding is to support companies that are controlled by Indigenous people and who have decision-making authority and creative control in the projects. However, in this one grant, we will be considering a small number of partnerships with BIPOC and non-Indigenous controlled nonprofit organizations on projects that are led by an Indigenous person or that meet a specific need or skills gap in the sector. So again, this is where that meeting component really comes in, because if you're coming as a non-Indigenous controlled charity or non-for-profit, it's going to be really critical to get into conversation with us so that we can ensure that your project is really going to meet the needs of the community in a way that we feel is best. So this program will be assessed internally by the team at the ISO, and we will be looking at these projects through the lens of regional and intersectional representation, the viability of the project, the readiness to proceed, including things like scope, timeline, work plan, budget, and community engagement. Like we said, these are larger undertakings, so we're going to see if the team applying is able to undertake the project they're applying with. And fundamentally, we're looking for the advancement of Indigenous storytelling and the enrichment of cultural life in our communities. So some of the things that you can spend the grant money on would be project fees, facilitator fees, mentor fees, technology, program coordination. And again, we've included sort of other associated project costs because we're going to get a wide range of applications and we want to be responsive to the things that you're coming to us with. And so it will be really dependent project to project. Some of the application requirements are listed here. Again, those come up in the actual portal that you will go through if you do intend to apply. Project information and track record of applicant is going to be really important here because we need to see that the organization or the group is able to administer the program that they're intending to create or to apply with. Okay, fair. I think this is you.
This is me, yeah. And sorry, Isabel, I got a little trigger happy in a couple of those slides there. Got a little bit ahead.
No worries.
So for all of our programs, we do have a peer review process. It is made up of Indigenous media arts professionals and cultural leaders from across the country and work within a variety of regions. We do want to make sure that we get a really diverse group of folks to come together so that we are representing across Canada and across nations. As Isabel and Tash had said, the enhancements and sector developments are assessed internally by ISO staff. Oops, there we go. So once you apply and you go through all that process and it's an amazing application, what happens when you get approved? So you will, again, depending on the program, it does take 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 months. So just keep that in mind when you're applying and when you're thinking about which program is going to be most suitable for you. Applicants must contact the grant manager if your organization collective dissolves, merges with another prior to finishing the project. If there are any big changes to the application that you submitted, you should be talking to your program manager. Otherwise, we want you to enjoy the process. We want you to take notes. We really do encourage feedback. And we want to get to know all the folks and hear about what their experiences were like. These are just a little bit of general updates. We're really excited to be working with the Banff Diversity of Voices again. So there'll be more coming out on that in a little bit, in the next couple months-ish. We do also work with the real world database. I cannot say how many times people reach out to the ISO asking for, do we know Indigenous directors or producers or cinematographers? And we just, too much come in. So we actually do send people to check out this one. So if you are somebody who wants to get their name out there, this is a really fantastic place to kind of get your name out there and register there. I also want to encourage folks to sign up for our newsletter. When we do have any type of announcements or if we're doing some exciting things, that is definitely the best way to stay on top of everything. And great big thank you. Here are some of our emails. If you have general questions about the ISO, the best one is just the info at ISO. If you have funding questions, best way to do it is to send it to the funding at ISO email address. More likely than not, you'll be getting me. Sometimes I can answer those questions, but depending on what they are, if they do get very specific, I will send you either to Tash or Isabel. Yeah, so I will stop sharing. There we go. And we're back.
That was great. Thank you so much for sharing that slide with us. I really liked at the beginning, Kaya, when you had said the part that like the applicant and the ISO are entering a relationship based on honesty and trust, and building that relationship from the beginning, from the application process is really important. And I love that it's open, like Tash had mentioned, that they're open to podcasts as well for some of the funding for the grants, and how Isabel mentioned that there's the costume designers and the sound designers and the lighting design, and like that it's opening up into the industry as a whole, not just for the directors, producers, screenwriters, that we're really branching out and building capacity throughout, you know, the whole industry, so we could have that support. It's really, really exciting to see. So what are we going to jump into now? You guys covered so much in that. That was just like a great pool of information that we received. And the best way for the on-screen creators to contact about these grants is through the funding email that was shown up earlier. We'll drop that over in the chats shortly, so anybody that needs that, they could copy it and save it into their contacts. And so when you're contacting, what is some of the assistance that the applicants receive when they reach out to the grant, to Isabel or Tash, for questions with their grants?
Tash, do you want to take this one? I can take it.
Yeah, sure. So sorry, can you repeat the question again? Yeah,
just some of the assistance that's provided for applicants when they're reaching out to you about the application process.
Okay, yeah. Well, it really is like a case-by-case basis. So if someone needs help in any of the ways that they might need help, they can just discuss that with us. And we can work with them with whatever their needs are for filling out the application or any questions around the portal, anything. So yeah, we just kind of suggest that we work with them around their needs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think the first step would just be like you reaching out, send an email, and then Tash and Isabel will probably set up, maybe they might be able to answer it right away, or they might set up a like to have a conversation and a chat around it just to get a better idea of what assistance is needed. And then we'll see what we can do. We want to try and make these as, you know, as accessible for everybody as possible. So whatever's in our power to make that easier for folks, we'll do.
That's awesome. And for creatives that are aspiring for the various roles that are available within the grants, do they need to have any prior experience or crediting? I know that there was some specific mention that Isabel had mentioned, but for overall, is there like do they have to be emerging, mid-level? Could you have not created anything, but just have a really killer idea and you're wanting to go for it for the first time?
Yeah, so we haven't laid out a specific criteria. We don't have a number of credits required. You know, we're certainly open, and a big part of our mandate is supporting emerging creators and giving them that space to grow and doing what we can. For the jury process, I think it's important to keep in mind that, you know, people will be assessing the projects based on an individual's ability to complete it meaningfully. So if you're coming and applying for a big feature like sci-fi, VFX heavy thing, but you only have maybe a short film credit, it might be raise a flag to someone who's reviewing your project. But that being said, I think that within all of our grants, there's something for everyone, especially when we're talking about, you know, cultural mentorship or apprenticeship, the development grants that are open to folks who want to come in and start working on their projects. That's a great place to start, but we don't have an exact criteria, and you know, we encourage people sort of from all regions, all levels, to come and chat with us and see if there's something for them.
Keeping in mind the Enhancements Grant, where you do have to already have a feature film or television series in the works, and yeah.
Thank you, Tash.
Yeah, that's great. And so once you receive the funding and, you know, you make your project and the project's complete, is there a timeline that they have to follow to have like reporting back to the ISO on the project that they worked on, or like post grant situation? What would an applicant do there?
Do you want me to take this one? Yeah, so ideally you would report back to the grant manager with who holds the envelope to the fund you applied to somewhere in the frame of 3 months after the completion of your project. In total, you are given 2 years to fulfill a grant. And then after you're done, that could be obviously sooner than 2 years, you would submit your final report to us. And it's a pretty, what's the word? I don't want to say simple, but it's a straightforward process. And it's more about our data collection for that project, and also just to see how it went for you as the artist, how it went for all the participants. And also we love to get imagery, obviously, for projects that happened, because we love to support those artists and, you know, show their work on via our website or our social media, just to show that what they've done. Yeah.
That's great. And I just want to shout out to the audience if anybody has any questions for our guests today from the Indigenous Screen Office, to please add them into the chat on the side of the Eventia platform. Yeah, I mean, this is a great conversation. You covered so many of my questions during the slide. Now I'm like, okay, what are we going to talk about next? Oh no, that's okay. It was really informative, and really like let us know everything really that we need to know about applying for the grants, and having the accessibility to contact you all and actually engage with you about the application process is like really important. And I think a piece that sometimes people don't know is available, right? They think that they just have to do this by themselves in their own silo at home, and they can't reach out to anybody for any questions, or else like they don't know that that's a portion that's available for them to have. So having an open door where they're able to contact you all and ask these questions is really amazing. Yeah, just like,
yeah, as a small team, I think we try to position ourselves, and I think the organization tries to position itself as really responsive. And so we try to make ourselves available, to make our schedules available. We're open to sort of phone calls and Zooms, especially a lot of these programs are pilot projects for us. This is the first time that they've launched. We've obviously secured funding for the next couple of years, which has been really wonderful and has been the reason why all three of us are sitting here today. And so we are also wanting a ton of feedback on the programs, on the portal, which we've designed through SurveyMonkey. And so, you know, we're really open to engaging in conversation with the community and trying to be really responsive.
that's great. It's so important. I'm really looking forward to seeing the projects that come from this. I was so excited to hear that the ISO secured that funding. I was lucky enough to be a part of the team early on in 2020. I was there for a little while, and it was just Jesse, Jamie, and Kerry. So it's great to see the team continue to grow into what it has today, and have all of the supports available for the community. And I look forward to like moving forward and learning, you know, more about going back into the pathways and protocols that I know that's been reworked, and is going to be a really great presentation coming out in 2022. I can't wait to, you know, learn more about that, have that under our belt as well at the Institute. And just very exciting things happening over at the ISO. So it's great to have you all here today to, you know, hear more about that.
Thank you. There's a question in the chat.
Yeah, there's one there. Perfect. For some filmmakers that have never applied to grants, it's quite intimidating. Do you have any advice for first timers? And like, how do I know which grant would be right for me as a filmmaker?
I mean, I feel like both is about, oh, Kaya, do you want to take it?
Well, I was like, I'll start out, and then Tashin as well, you can jump in. I think like when you're trying to look at which grant would be right for you, it's like pay close attention to who's eligible for the grant and what type of projects. That'll lead you towards like the type of grant that you want. Also, a really good thing, like we said, is think about timeline as well, because it can take, you know, 3 to 4 months. So depending on where your project will be once the money flows, that also might change which type of grant that you want to apply for. And then advice just for applying for grants. Honestly, I would say like get in early. Check out, like once you kind of figure out, okay, I think this is what I want to go for, go onto the portal, check out what it looks like, what the questions are, what type of documentation that you're going to have to get and submit. And then from there, once you've kind of taken a look at it and you still have questions or you're just not sure, reach out to us. Like we said before, like we want to make ourselves available. We want to meet with folks and have a chat about just questions they have, or maybe they're coming up against some sort of block, or they're just not understanding some questions as well. We want to help with those types of things for sure.
I'll just add to in the portal, when you click on the grants, you sign up to the portal, you select a grant that you think you might want to apply to or be eligible for, and all of the different steps are listed. And then you start with the eligibility form. And so that's a form that's yes or no questions, and you go through that and then you submit it, and the system comes back and will tell you if you're eligible or not. So that's kind of a great place to start. And then every step has a description of what's required, and it's all in the portal, so you don't have to go out of it and then go back in. You can download your application and work on it and then upload it. And yeah, all the information is there for many of the programs, or most of the programs. There's budget templates that we've provided so that you can use those as well. So the application too, we've tried to make it not super onerous and not super challenging for people, because we know that a lot of these applications can be a lot of administrative work for projects for companies. So yeah, I think that that's a great place to start, is going through there, and then come and talk to us if you have any questions.
The other thing I'll mention too is that once you go in there, there's actually an option where at the end of each kind of section, so it says save and edit, and you can actually put stuff in, save it. You could totally shut down, like you can exit out and shut down your computer, and then when you go back in, it'll still be there once you log in as well. So you can go in and out of it without losing what you've already put in.
I'll add one last thing, or one more thing. The portal also allows you to add collaborators. So if you yourself are not into writing your own grant, and you have somebody helping you with that, like a lot of times with projects too, people will have their producers do the application. You can do that. So you can just add in collaborators and they can log in and fill out the application too, or you can work together on the application.
Oh, that's really great. It sounds like a very accessible application process that has like everything built into it that you need. I know like reviewing grants and reviewing things at times, like some budgets could look so wild. Like I've pulled out some templates where like, I don't understand how to read this at all. So that's really great that you guys have a budget template available. So it's going to be coming in and then you'll be able to clearly understand what's happening with that budget from the template. I really like that. So I wanted to ask, what are some of the stories that you are all excited for as Indigenous people within the industry? What are you looking forward to seeing be created in the next handful of years? You know, from some of these wonderful funding opportunities that we now have available. I feel like we'll have a great abundance of projects coming out soon.
Just personally, and on like a personal, I am one of those like fantasy and sci-fi nerds. Like, give me all that like post-apocalyptic. I want to like. That's my jam. That's where I love those types of stories. I mean, I like all stories, but I nerd out on those ones.
For myself, I'm a podcast listener, so I'm looking forward to seeing what people bring. I really hope we get applications for podcasts and to see what folks are doing in that way. You know, a lot of communities started out as audio-based storytellers, so just relying on that sound and that audio and creating that world through sound, I'm excited about. So I'm looking forward to those projects, and then also the scary stories. So the stories that we heard as kids that are now coming through in film and in other ways within our communities. I'm pretty curious and also, yeah, excited about.
Yeah, I am excited about more language content. I think that we're in a real moment right now where we see that film and television and all kinds of media that are in Indigenous languages are immensely popular. I was lucky enough to just be at the opening night and saw Night Raiders again. And, Dennis Goulet talking about how specificity in language and culture in place just makes stories really strong. And I think as an industry, we're starting to recognize how important that is and how, meaningful it is to our stories to have things in the languages that, we grew up hearing or didn't grow up hearing in many cases. And so, yeah, I love that we've also started to look at ways of funding language learning in the industry and to promote, keeping language speakers involved in our processes and finding a way to integrate them into our projects. So more stuff in Indigenous languages, please.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. I love Indigenous language content. And I think it's just really great to hear, just to listen. And in the language revitalization, like listening to the language and hearing it is like the first step of relearning it, becoming familiar with the way that the words are pronounced, and just having more content available for us to watch and just like soak that all in is gonna, I think, make the future of being able to bring our languages back a lot brighter and very exciting. I know that's something that really warms my heart and touches in a special place. So I feel like that's something that's exciting for sure. Looking forward to some like short, heartfelt dramas personally. I really love it in a short compact, because I'm like, sometimes the long ones, it's a little bit too much. I'm like, oh, I need to take a break. So the short, give me like 10 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, I love that. And then comedy, because I am obsessed with laughing. So I just want more and more comedy all the time. This has been like a really great conversation, and I'm so happy that you all were able to take the time today to come out and talk about the programs that the ISO has and share in depth with our audience how they're able to access the applications, how accessible the applications are, to know it's not something daunting, click on it if you get confused and you need some help, that you're waiting for them to reach out and you're available and ready to help. And I think that's a super important thing to like highlight in this kind of process, that it is accessible. And that we're looking for all different kinds of stories, and we want people to come out from all different levels of experience to apply for this funding. And I'm just very excited for what the next couple of years are going to bring for Indigenous content. I love getting to review more of these scripts. So, apply and then continue to come through imagineNATIVE and work with the ISO, and we'll just keep uplifting Indigenous creatives as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Do any of you have anything that you would like to say before we head off for the day?
Oh, I have one thing. For those folks who are really looking at the Story Fund, we have a webinar coming up on Monday that we'll be doing. Me and Tash will be there. Isabel will be helping with questions as they come in. So if you haven't registered, the link is on like our Facebook page. You can go there and register for the webinar, or we are also going to be broadcasting to Facebook as well. So if you don't register, you can still catch it there.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kaya. And to mention that I am bilingual staff member, so I speak both English and French. I have been really happily fielding the French questions that are coming in. I live in Montreal, I live in Quebec, so please, to our Francophone Indigenous community, nous sommes ici, on est prêt à aider, whatever you need, please come. Same invitation is extended to reach out to us whenever you need.
Yeah, and just thanks for showing up. And please, just to reiterate that, if you are intimidated or you're an emerging filmmaker or media maker, just know that we're pretty friendly niches. We're just here to chat as well. So, if you just want to tell us about your project a bit, though we're not going to maybe give you creative sort of feedback, obviously, but we can listen and just sit with you for a bit.
Oh, that's great. Isabel, I do want to ask off of what you said. So are applicants able to apply in French through their applications, or is...
Yeah, so the application portal is completely bilingual. Like, you can choose English or French. All of the questions and the templates are in both languages. So we've done our best, and we'll continue to provide things in both languages. Our webinar that we're having on the 25th there will be a translation available as well. So we're doing our best to just have both languages present at all times. I think it's super important for us. So.
Yeah, I love that. That's super great. And I'm glad that our audience gets to know as well now. So thank you all so much for joining in today. It was such a pleasure to speak with you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you in the future. And yeah, continuing on this road for Indigenous narrative sovereignty. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do this. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bama P.